Hey, how's it going, guys? No, the screen is not glitching. I am here. I'm just currently hiding. I feel the very fact that I have titled this video as I have is going to bring a lot of hate my way, and so I'm just kind of ducking right now and trying to hide away. You think everybody's gone? I'm hoping they're gone. Okay, I think we're good. I know it is a very bold statement to say Artificer is the best designed class in D&D, because it's not. Now, this isn't clickbait. I do believe it's the best designed class, but not mechanics-wise. I understand that mechanics are exactly what we think about when we talk about different classes. We think about the mechanics of the fighter and how it can hit things harder. We think about the mechanics of the barbarian and how it can tank more. We talk about the mechanics of spellcasting versus martials, yada, yada, yada. I get that. I totally do. And Artificer does have some core problems that could be fixed. I don't think it is a perfect class, and honestly, I do think some of the core classes are way better designed than Artificer. So what am I talking about? Why do I say it's the best designed one? Well, it's because it understands a core concept that people learned over the course of 5th edition that I think could be used to influence more into the rest of the classes as we move into 1 D&D, and that's the concept of flexibility. See, one of the core things about the Artificer that does not affect anything mechanically but is incredible is the fact that it encourages you to try and decide how you use your spellcasting focus based off of the tools that you have. What this does is it encourages each and every Artificer to be absolutely different. Whether you're an Artificer who is a glass blower, who blows magic into tiny little glass vials which you then break on the ground, or you are an Artificer who uses smith tools and creates different tools and weapons that you can then use in combat. The point is, this tiny little thing ensures that playing an Artificer never feels samey. This kind of got nailed down to me as I was playing a Plasmoid Artificer recently. His name is Gilly, and I kind of just made him because I wanted to be an ooze, just a little blob boy moving around. And so I tried to figure out how I could do that totally, even in my class. And so I made him an Artificer. Why? Well, I could choose Armorer, because Armorers can basically ingrain the armor into themselves, and that way I was still just an ooze, and my main ability was just me being an ooze. I just found more powerful stuff to absorb into my ooze self, and then I could use that, right? I thought that was a lot of fun, but it made me realize how much an Artificer is just flexible in general because of this one tiny little ruling. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of other people use this in different classes. How many times do we reflavor class abilities to represent what we want? I mean, that's what you should do inherently. But I think that the fact that Artificer leans into this and creates more flexibility through the use of infusions really nails down what I hope to see for the rest of the classes. Too many times we see subclasses released that are just far too specific. Psionic Fighter or Storm Herald Barbarian. And those are very fun, and I think they were great at the beginning of 5th edition. They helped us learn how to lean into certain archetypes of things, but I think that D&D players have simply evolved past that at this point. We don't need to know, oh, I could create a Storm-based Barbarian. Now I think I want to play a Storm-based Barbarian, and I know that Storm Herald, while yes, technically flavor-wise fits that, mechanically doesn't work as well. So I will go find another subclass that fits the mechanics more, and I'll flavor it to be Storm-like. But Artificer got past that already with its abilities, and the fact that it has such a large spell casting pool which you could choose from to fit what you want. I looked through all the Artificer spells when I was playing my Plasmoid, and I chose all the spells that would just let me be more of a Plasmoid. Entangle, yes, technically I have to use plants for that, but I could just flavor it as me stretching really, really far and creating a very sticky substance. Or grease, I'm sure I don't need to explain that. He just took a part of himself and tossed it on the ground, and boom, now there was a greased up area. And I did that for pretty much every single one of my spells. And I think that's really fun. I even ended up taking the feat Telekinetic so that I could shove things telekinetically, which was just me stretching out a pseudopod and either grabbing them or shoving them away. The point was, I was able to fully be Plasmoid. I was able to fit the flavor of what I was looking for, and I think the other classes just are missing that.
People have really loved the Armorer, which is why it made it into this book. Just like when people saw the Armorer in Unearthed Arcana, you get to choose if you have the Guardian model of the armor or the Infiltrator model, and there's a cool piece of art too showing armorers in each of those suits, and it shows them using the powers that those suits of armor give them. And this subclass really fills a nice niche that the other 3 Artificer subclasses don't fill, because this is really about the Artificer themselves being amazingly resilient, whereas the other 3 have different emphases. With the Battlesmith with their metallic companion, the alchemist being a bit of a healer, but also having a lot of other magical capabilities.
I do want the classes to feel distinct from each other. Let me get that out of the way. I want to be able to look at a barbarian and a fighter and not have to get confused between the two, because I think it's really important. We want to have that flavor, but I think it should be enough flavor in the core class to understand what it is, while in the subclasses and the abilities beyond where we can be as flexible as we want to be. A fighter is a fighter. We know that. It is a skilled fighter. And a barbarian is a skilled fighter, but one who relies far more on recklessness. I should be able to understand that just by looking at the core mechanics. One of the other things about artificers that I haven't touched on yet that I do think are fantastic are infusions. Infusions allow you to create so much more flexibility while still making it very clearly an artificer thing. And obviously the immediate comparison you can come to that is Warlock, because Warlock have evocations, right? So kind of the same thing. Do I think every single class should have these types of abilities? Well, kind of yeah, but also no. I don't think all of them should have this list of things they could just choose from, because I think that takes away from some of the mechanics. Fighters should be more simple. They should be more about just hitting things. If we give them all that stuff, well, that would be really boring, right? Because then they just feel like an artificer. But then again, if we gave them a list of maneuvers they could choose from, which is something a lot of people really ask for, suddenly it does seem to fit that way. And so yeah, I do think in some way, each of the classes should have a list of special things that they can choose no matter what subclass they are. And they don't all have to be the same. Artificers are very powerful magic weapons, and that makes them unique. Evocations tend to lean more towards spellcasting. And for fighters, maneuvers don't go anywhere near that level of power, but it still adds something unique. For barbarians, you could add different types of rages that they could take, or different types of movements, and I think that would be really fun. I really do think that each and every single one of the classes should have the ability to move around at least a little bit when it comes to customization. But once we start getting further into things, people should be able to flavor it a lot more, and I think that's why Artificer is the best designed class, at least for now. I truly believe they understand this, and once we get into 1 D&D, they'll be adjusting this a little bit more, and I kind of hope that they do, because I want to see more of those types of mechanics. And yes, 1 D&D does seem like it's moving that way, and I'm really excited for it, but you'll notice that most of the arguments I'm making here kind of just lean towards how Pathfinder is. See, Pathfinder is much more based in character customization, and I think that is honestly necessary. 5e was always made to be dumbed down, to be easier for everybody, and that's good, and I still think it should remain somewhat that way. But adding the more customizational options to each of the classes to let you choose how to make them unique, I think is absolutely the way to go. The thing that makes D&D special is you can look at a class and know what class it is, but also understand that you could take it any direction you want. And I really, really think the game should lean more into that to be a much more fascinating time. So I hope that they can do that. I think it's a ton of fun and adds way more depth to D&D. If you want to hear some more discussions about, I don't know, D&D stuff, I didn't really think about what I was going to put at the end of this video, well, you can watch right here.